Hello and welcome to another live edition of the Nittany Dispatch. I'm John Sauber, Penn State beat writer at the Center Daily Times. She is Audrey Snyder, covering Penn State for InsideTheLines.substack.com as I stumble over that to
Come
start
on,
the
rolls
show
off the
immediately.
tongue. Rolls right
Yeah,
off
right.
the tongue.
Exactly. You should subscribe to all of Audrey's work. You can subscribe to my work as well at CenterDaily.com. But we are here to discuss
Is discuss the right word? Unpack?
discuss or disgust. I don't know what you said, but they both seem right. But a team, a program that is in a place that I don't think either of us envisioned. Audrey and I were just talking pre-pod, and I was getting my prediction ready for Saturday's game, and I was looking at the spread and everything, and I can't believe that Penn State's over a 20-point favorite. That does not make a lot of sense to me, but nonetheless, we are here to talk about what comes now. Penn State is 5 games into a season that has quickly taken a downturn, and now I don't think anyone knows where they go. We'll talk about what James Franklin said Monday. We'll talk about the upcoming game, probably more of the presser, for being honest.
Less of the game.
Yes. But yeah,
we're not
Audrey,
moving on to Northwestern, to be clear. We're not turning the page just yet. You can't.
I'll start there. I don't think James had either on Monday.
Oh.
He did not give his scouting report to start the presser as he usually does in his opening statement, which I think everyone kind of noticed, and we were kind of caught off guard.
I did not, to be honest. I did not.
I know. So I guess I shouldn't say I know. I noticed that it was shorter. I was like, oh, that was weird. Like his opening statement was short, and I didn't put 2 and 2 together on what wasn't there. I probably should have. But it got brought up to him later by Mike Poorman, and he said, "Oh yeah." James essentially said, "Oh yeah, thanks. I forgot to do that. I'll go ahead and do that." And then he went through the scouting report. Yeah, to end the presser, and that was it. But
here's why that was good though. Why that was great. We got more time in the room to ask questions because he forgot to rattle off that thing, which takes usually like at least 2 minutes, sometimes more.
I think we had 16 questions. We usually get around 12, 11, somewhere around there.
And yeah, so you and I combined for 4 of them. We were coming out hot.
That's right.
And that's honestly, that should have been my cue too, that something was missing when I got the microphone a second time. And I'm like, okay, like why did that happen? But I just thought maybe his answers were shorter. Regardless, doesn't matter. We got more questions. I still have many more questions, as I'm sure you do, as I'm sure Penn State fans do, about a program that is free falling. Right. I think that's probably the perfect way to put it. I thought James Franklin's overall demeanor, his vibe, I guess, because again, I'm the vibes check person here, seemed exhausted. I think that speaks to the forgetting the opening statement. The scouting report seemed frazzled, certainly seemed worn down. That has not been a good stretch. I was asking players on Zoom on Tuesday. What is today's date? Tuesday. I was asking them, what was that flight back like from Los Angeles? And Drew Shelton was like, yeah, there was not much being said. Zachy Wheatley was like, yeah, that was not pleasant, was not fun. And I think that's where this whole team is at, of how do you move forward? And, you know, James Franklin took all the questions. I thought he tried to perhaps answer them, still not to a level of satisfaction that we want. And I think that's part of why this gets really interesting, because you look at like the Kaytron Allen usage, for example, and he says, yeah, we had discussions before the game that we wanted to get him the ball more, use him more. And yes, after the game, we talked about it as a staff. He needs to get the ball more. So like, why isn't it happening, right? Like, what's the disconnect there? And that's, you know, you read into some of these answers, and I have a piece up on Inside the Lions unpacking what Franklin said Monday, and it's like some of the stuff just really makes me scratch my head right now, especially like you're shouting out the special teams unit as your most consistent after they got surprised by an onside kick and then didn't know to rush the punter. Like, I get it. You're saying they've been their most consistent unit all season, which speaks to how ungreat things have been on the other 2 phases. But, like, that was not the day to shout out the special teams unit.
No, I was pretty surprised by that, too. He said that, and I'm glad no one was looking at me, because, like, I immediately, like, looked up and, like, gave him a very confused look. But, yeah, I think the exhaustion is apparent. He is so clearly tired. This takes, obviously, there's a physical toll of, as he put it, the travel and everything. But, like, there's also a mental toll.
Gosh.
Yeah, to be clear, like, I think there was a little bit of overreaction to James mentioning the travel. It was like he was just listing stuff that happened. It was a throwaway line. I think people probably latched onto it a little too much.
I don't think could not say it. Like, that's the other thing.
Yeah, right. Like, that's the other part. Like, he shouldn't have said it.
Base. Yeah.
And I wonder if it just like kind of came out as he was like listing things that happened. And then I'm sure he regrets saying it now, given how people reacted to it. But
you know what? Let me just make this, because I don't remember if we hit on it Saturday or not, but for those who maybe think the travel had something to do with it, this was the same travel schedule that Penn State used last year at USC. So again, there was nothing drastically different. James Franklin even said last week, they went back, checked the travel, their like report of what they did last year, and they were like, yeah, there were no findings. So anyway, just wanted to get that out there.
Yeah, and I don't travel's an excuse when you play a UCLA team that literally hasn't led in a game all year. I digress. Yeah, I think James is very emotionally, physically exhausted. I think a lot of people in that building are emotionally, physically exhausted, and that is going to be interesting to watch the rest of this year, how it plays out. Like I mentioned the Northwestern game. If you'd asked me preseason, I would have been like, man, probably like, 41-7. That is very much not my prediction going into this game. We'll get to that later, but I just think so much has kind of changed that they weren't ready for, that they're reacting as it's happening, and they're not reacting well. It has not been a good 2 weeks, obviously, on the field, but I think it's also been difficult in the room, in the building. I think they are not scrambling, but again, anytime something unexpected happens, you have to change course. And now their backs are up against the wall as much as they can be. They have to win out to have any chance of anything. I don't think anyone's giving them a chance doing that, and I think rightfully so. But they still, James mentioned the blocking out the noise again, like they're trying to block out the negativity, but the negativity is coming from their performance. It's not because it's not unwarranted. And so there's a push and pull there of not wanting to focus on the negativity, but at the same time, there's so much negative from the last 2 games they need to improve on. I wonder if they should embrace some of that and be like, okay, something clearly has to change drastically for this season to turn around at all.
Us against the world, right, John? They mentioned last week, hey, look what Ohio State did last year. We could be that. Well, yeah, people wanted Ryan Day fired last year too. Now, obviously, different scenario with James Franklin, obviously, given Ryan Day's history. I'm not comparing the two, but I do think that this could be like a rallying point for the team of, hey, everybody thinks we suck. Look what just happened, right? That introduction Saturday in Beaver Stadium is going to be fascinating. Fans are probably going to let them have it. It will not be a happy homecoming for a team that, as we all know, started this year with national title hopes and all these things. And the offensive line might be the best since '94, and they've been a letdown. And your star-studded quarterback, while he was not the problem on Saturday, hasn't lived up to expectations. You're not using your best running back, and that's just a whole other boatload of disaster. And then, your defense? Well, Tyler Donahue 247 asked James Franklin, are you, how do you say it? Are you like surprised?
Is he surprised?
Your defense? Yeah. Yes. Are you surprised with where your defense is at? And James Franklin was like, yeah, I'm surprised. Like, yeah, I did not expect that this is what the defense would look like. I think that learning curve with the defense, obviously first year in Jim Knowles' system, not where they want it to be, which also is interesting, John. When you go back, was it 3 weeks ago when we last talked to Jim Knowles on Zoom, and he said defense is right on track. Perhaps the non-conference schedule hid some of these problems.
But they held Oregon to 3 points and a half and 17 points in regulation. I think this was just a one that, like, losing Tony Rojas, no doubt about it, mattered, because I always talk about, like, I don't really care about linebackers. When you have a coverage linebacker that's a difference maker, that's a different story. Mm-hmm. And, like, Dom DeLuca is just not at the level of a Big Ten linebacker, quite frankly, or a national title linebacker. He's just not there. They need someone else to step up. And he got, continually he was in the middle of the danger, right, on Saturday. Like, when things went wrong, he was there. He was the one that was crossed up. He was the one that was out of position. He was the one who wasn't able to get to the spot that he needs to be, even when he knew where to go. And so I think that caused a lot more issues than you would usually anticipate. But also, I think the emotional letdown was a massive part of Saturday for the defense, right? To be clear, Nico Iamaleava played, like, incredibly well. Probably the best game.
John? Can you say that last name again?
I believe it's Iamaleava, but I might be wrong on that.
I don't know about that. Yeah,
we'll find out. But he played incredibly well. Had his best game as a Bruin, and that hurt Penn State, obviously. But, like, there's no real schematic excuse for why that happened. It was lack of focus, lack of effort, lack of all of the intangible stuff you need to succeed as a defense, lack of communication, which I have a hard time with James's answer, because I thought,
because he said that he's not seeing them like quitting or something like that. He doesn't see that
but
there's a
not
effort
just that.
thing.
I thought after Oregon, if I remember correctly, he mentioned that the defense had taken steps, right? Like that they had essentially like things had been significantly better, that it was clear that there was a step forward. That does, if communication's not an issue for Oregon, but all of a sudden is for UCLA, that doesn't make sense to me, right? Like it doesn't connect. So what I think it was it was lack of focus on details, lack of communication because someone was in there for sure, but also just that you're missing a big piece of your defense that is impactful and would have obviously helped against UCLA quite a bit. But let's get into what James actually said with some of these. What is when I mentioned Monday's presser, where James spoke for like 32 minutes or something like that? What is the first
27 or 29? But
sounds about right. What
but
is the first response of his that comes to mind? What is the first thing you think of that is most important moving forward this season?
I think the Kaytron Allen, because I think it speaks to a bigger problem. I think James saying, yes, we've had conversations that Kaytron needs to get the ball more, which again, remember, I think it was last week when I asked him about Kaytron and the usage. Again, this has been a problem for a while, isn't it?
Yes.
And I asked him about that, and he said, yeah, like Kaytron had, because it was last week. He said, he's had 4 fantastic games, and we got to find ways to continue utilizing him. Okay, so what does that look like? Well, it goes out, and you don't have him on the field for your most important play of the game. You continue giving handoffs to Nick Singleton, and you say that you need to get him the ball more, that they've had these conversations, and you know, that it's Andy Kotelnicki and Stan Drayton both coming up to establishing the rotation, but they're not really figuring out which backs there. It's, hey, these guys are rotating by series. But after Kaytron isn't on the field on 4th and 2, Franklin says, yeah, we had conversations about it as a staff on Sunday that we got to give him the ball more. So to me, there's a disconnect, and there's a massive disconnect between the head coach and the play caller and the position coach, and that's a problem. It's a problem that your fans can recognize, that your best running back is not getting the ball. It is abundantly clear, right, that there is a divide between Kaytron Allen and Nick Singleton. I did not expect that this is what we'd be talking about this year, but hey, here we are. You have that, but the fact that we keep asking about it and we get these answers that just don't really make any sense, I think it might just take us maybe being a little more blunt and being like, what the hell's going on, right? Like, what are you, because it does not add up. It doesn't equate. And I understand that they believe in Nick Singleton, and all it takes is one big run to pop it and this and that, and he came back for a reason. I get all of that, but you got to produce. And at the end of the day, this offense isn't getting it done. And that's why that answer to me speaks really loudly. And I asked James Franklin, how would you evaluate Andy Kotelnicki? Because again, this offense with one of the highest paid coordinators in the country is ranked 70th. So I asked him, and I'm pulling up the quote sheet here. Let's see where I have about the offense. Let me see what exactly the answer was. He goes, James Franklin said the question was, how would you evaluate the job Andy Kotelnicki has done up to this point? You guys are 70th in total offense. Franklin says, again, all of it ultimately is my responsibility. And then there's a shared responsibility between myself and the coordinators and the assistant coaches. Up to this point, we have not been as productive as we expected and anticipated to be. We've had slow starts, which again, John, that's another theme, right? The slow starts, they haven't been explosive enough. So again, I'm fixating on the offense because to me, there's a disconnect. What stood out to you, John?
Well, I think it ties together, right?
Okay.
I asked James if he was considering making any staff changes, which seems to me like a yes or no question. That did not get a yes or no answer. He mentioned that it's a results-based business, which I think is, I don't know, of his response, I think that was the most telling part, right? Like that, essentially it felt like the answer was not right now to me. That's my read on what he said, just based on what he's saying in that situation. And I would not be surprised if things keep trending. I guess it's important to say, I don't expect any major staff changes until the end of the season, or at least the end of the regular season. I
wonder if they lose to Ohio State and Indiana. I think once you have those two out of the way, then I wonder what happens. Again, depending on the
let me rephrase that. I don't think James Franklin will make the decision to change anyone on his staff between now and the end of the season. I believe if James Franklin had his way, any change would come after the end of the regular season.
What if James Franklin doesn't have his way?
Then I think it's possible. Or if there are directives or if input from others to make changes, I think it's possible. It's happened before. But I do not believe that James Franklin, given his choice and how things played out, and with Andy Kotelnicki being involved in other coaching searches, I do not believe that James would fire him. Quite frankly, because that's what everyone's talking about. I'm not naive. You're not naive.
I mean, I think everyone's talking about everything.
Yeah, but I like Jim Knowles. You can't fire Jim Knowles. you gave him so much money. You legitimately can't.
You can do whatever you want in this sport, John. We don't know where the money's coming from, but
I do not think they've got the $6 million essentially to fire a defensive coordinator or whatever it is, even after this year. But I think Kotelnicki's the one that's under fire because of how the defense has played, or how the offense has played so far this year. Listen, it's been a long couple of weeks. But I think that's the name everyone will point to. My expectation right now is that Kotelnicki and this staff and Franklin will all finish out this regular season. Who knows what it looks like after that? And to be clear, things can change, right? It is 7/16 on October 7th. Things can change in an hour. You never know when you get a phone call that something drastic has happened. But I would, and you and I both will keep our ear to the ground on these types of things, and obviously keep people updated both on, for our publications and on here. But as of now, I would not anticipate anything happening by the end of the regular season, and I think that is going to upset some people. I think it is far more likely that this staff remains together, and even if because at that point, it's not like making that change impacts anything if you lose to Ohio State and Indiana. You're already looking at best 8-4. What is firing someone?
Why wouldn't you rip the Band-Aid off at that point? You're mathematically eliminated your seasons of failure. You said you're a results-based business. And by the way,
Pat Kraft doesn't want to.
Pat Kraft has been banging the drum, right, all year. We want to go 4 for 4, right, with 4 national championships. Well, that ain't happening.
How about a 2 for 4?
Can we interest you in half?
Yes. That would be a pretty good outcome, by the way,
me,
if the hockey team and wrestling win it.
Yeah, that would satisfy some folks. But again, we know what keeps the lights on here around the athletic department, and everybody does. But that to me is okay. I think there could be a point, and I have a column up on my Substack, Inside the Lions. I think there needs to be perhaps a confrontation, if you will, of, hey, James, not so sure. Again, this is if the season continues off the rails. Not so sure it's going to work here. Do you want to keep getting booed on Saturday? Do you want to keep listening to this? Do you want to keep doing this, right? I think there's other ways in which this is going to get uncomfortable. And that it is what it is, right? I understand the frustration from the fans. This is also the result of this place going all in on this season, which some of that is to James Franklin's credit, right? And I outlined this in my column of people don't want to hear it, especially not right now. But he's done a lot of good for this place and a lot of good of dragging this place forward, right? In terms of facilities and all these things. I know that this is not what people want to hear. I get it. But I think that's an important part of it. Now, I put that out there. The other reality is he's not going to win a national championship. It's not happening this year. You were all in. We've seen the results, the 4-21 against the AP top 10. You are what you are. And I think that's where there needs to be a little bit of a, hey, James, can we find a way to make this work out where maybe the Florida job opens up, right? I think James Franklin is a wonderful program builder. I do not think he can take this program any further than it is right now. And that's the problem, right? You and I talked about Saturday night. We brought up Andy Reid and I brought up Mike McCarthy right at the end of the era. It feels stale. And to me, when that happens, that's where you got to make a change. But obviously, the buyout figure is significant. And James can dig in his heels and say, hey, no, I'm not going anywhere, right? There's that. So, yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see what happens. John, I don't want to say funniest because none of this is funny covering this. Fans don't want to hear it, but craziest scenario that could happen the rest of the way? You know what it is?
Them winning out.
No. That would please everyone. That would keep everything status quo. No. Would be them faltering, losing at Iowa, losing against Indiana, but beating Ohio State. That would be the one you see.
True.
Yeah, they finally beat Ohio State, but what good is it? Look at the rest of it, right? And I just, the way this team is right now, I just don't know what you can roll out because they are so sporadic. They are so all over the place that it's going to set up for a hell of a strange, bizarre, fascinating season.
Yeah, I've got some thoughts on that. First, a couple things. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast if you're listening on Apple Podcasts after the fact. If you're watching live on YouTube right now, hit the thumbs up button down below. Hit the subscribe button. Feel free to leave questions in the live chat. I see someone asked if I was the guy who said that Franklin would resign and forfeit $48 million. Never said that. Don't know where that came from. But I did say that I think there's a chance that he would take another job and essentially get the offsets in his contract. That being said, Audrey, I think it's time to pay the bills. The rivalries, the marching bands, the upsets. Saturdays just got way more fun. College football is back. Think you know the game? Put your knowledge to the test with DraftKings Sportsbook and turn your picks into big payouts. With live betting, rivalry week odds boosts, and more, DraftKings Sportsbook has everything you need to own every Saturday. And here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code DISPATCH. That's code DISPATCH for new customers to get $300 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. In partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. Fees may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
John, is that? No, that's not Roback you have on today, is it?
No, I did have a Roback hoodie on earlier. It's a little warm in the house today.
Oh, a little warm in the house. Not outside, only in the house.
Yes.
John Sauber, indoorsman.
Yes.
But let's talk about our friends over at Roback. The game day collection is out there if you're looking to update your Penn State wardrobe or if you're just looking to purchase any of their gear, hoodies, joggers, you name it, Roback has it. Baseball hats, duffel bags. New customers over at Roback can use code TND20 to save 20% off your purchase. That's code TND20 as in the Nittany Dispatch 20. Do not forget the code, but also do not forget to check out the game day collection over at Roback.
All right, so I want to talk about what the rest of this looks like. I know we touched on it Saturday, but we've had some time to kind of digest a lot in those last, whatever it is, 72 hours, something like that. I asked you at the end of the pod on Saturday if you thought James Franklin would be the head coach.
You're going back to this, aren't you?
Well, yeah, because I think this is the discussion that everyone is going to be having. And I think it changes. I think the answer changes. And I'm curious. I might ask you this every podcast the rest of the season.
Great.
Do you think James Franklin is the head coach at Penn State in February?
I said
you said
Saturday,
yes on Saturday.
That I thought he would, and I thought about it long and hard. Obviously, we got to see how the season plays out. The way I feel right now, I think the way the fan base feels right now, I think the results that we've seen in a results-oriented business leads me to say no. And I think that's, and I'm not just trying to please people here because everybody wants to fire everyone after something, right? Again, this is someone's livelihood at the end of the day. And as someone who's had that experience the past year, I'm not out here advocating for people to lose their jobs. But I think the point I hit on earlier is that it feels stale. And I think when you get to that point and it's like this guy has taken you as far as you can get, I think that's where you have to have some serious reflection and some serious conversations as an athletic department. And obviously, I'd love to know what's going on in Pat Kraft's mind right now, because there's the other side of this, John, and I've seen this from people, right? They say, well, yeah, we want to get rid of James, but we only want to bring in somebody who's going to win. Well, obviously, that you don't know what's going to happen. That's the risk. So you have to feel confident. But again, this is Pat Kraft's tenure. We outlined on Saturday about, James Franklin and this contract and how Sandy Barber and the board kind of gave this off to the next administration the way it played out. I do not think, and again, we can be wrong. We've been wrong on here several times, including me saying, you don't have to worry about UCLA. Enjoy your stress-free Saturday. But I think the noise is so loud right now, and justifiably so, that I would not be shocked if he's not here next year. And I think that would be a decision that's James's and not necessarily Penn State's. What about you, John? Because we both said that we thought he'd be here Saturday night.
Yeah, I still think he'll be here. I think the circumstances around him being here might change. I wouldn't be stunned if there's pressure applied to make maybe more changes than he wants in a lot of ways, not just like coaching staff or whatever. I think maybe an approach to the portal, recruiting, all of that stuff. I think a lot of that could end up happening if he is.
Explain that. What do you mean by that?
So much of this season was about roster retention, right? Rather than talent addition. And I would not be surprised if some allocation of resources is shifted, because I would anticipate, or could see, I guess is probably better. I don't want to say I would anticipate, because I don't know right now. I don't think anyone does. Mm-hmm. But I could see a general manager position existing after this season. Someone who is in charge of player personnel, essentially, like in professional sports, mm-hmm. that sort of controls the roster, right? And where James is the head coach rather than...
I was going to say, to be clear, he's not the general manager, because I've seen some of that too.
No, but but he kind of is, right? Like Andy Frank is the GM, essentially, but those two are close. Andy knows what James wants, right? Like, while it's Andy executing it, he knows what James wants. Mm-hmm. This would be more of a situation, I think, where they could bring someone in who is like making those decisions, taking James's input, because you always want to be working collaboratively on those things. But is essentially the final say would not be James. And right now, the final say, as I understand it, is James with who they had and whatnot. Like, and obviously, there's a massive say in how they allocate resources. But yeah, I think that is probably the biggest change that could happen if things sort of continue to go awry. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's not here, but like you said, and this is the thing that everyone is kind of struggling to wrap their head around. One, we don't know necessarily what the payout of the buyout looks like. I believe that it is essentially paid out over the life of the contract, not paid out in a lump sum. I'm not reporting that, but I'm working on finding that out, essentially. And I think if that's the case, it becomes a little more feasible for something to happen on Penn State's end. But if that's not the case, and it is a lump sum or what have you, it's just going to be his decision. Like, it is like
back
Penn
up
State,
the Brinks truck.
Yes. Penn State can apply pressure. They can do those things and say, hey, okay, you can stay the head coach and make this much money. The GM's going to come in and make all these decisions. You're going to strip power that way. You're going to strip power in other ways, right? Like those types of things.
Oh, remember these things that we promised you, X, Y, and Z? You're not going to get that here. Like, they can make life difficult on him if they want.
They can make it more appealing for him to be somewhere else.
Yes. I think that's a better way to frame it. And I think that's the other side of this too, is, are fans going to be less inclined to give money when there's unhappiness with the on-field product? And what does then your payroll, right? Your bankroll, the money that you have to do whatever with any roster, are you now dealing with a smaller figure? Right. And that to me is the other side of this that you have to think about, because fans now more than ever can directly control and influence the roster. And if it's like, hey, yeah, no, we're not giving you any money because we don't want the head coach here, we don't believe in this team, that becomes a more difficult sell. So yeah, there's no great answer here, I think, that says, oh, it's abundantly clear they need to do this. It's abundantly clear they need to do that. It's just a crazy spot that I never in a million years thought we'd be going down this rabbit hole, especially on October 7th.
Yeah, and I have one more question that I might ask you every pod too.
Great.
What are the best possible outcomes in your opinion? I want to be clear, this is our opinion, neither of us are reporting anything. For James and for Penn State moving forward in achieving their goals, and that's both obviously want to win national titles. What is best for James and what is best for Penn State football moving forward?
So you're taking, I can't say national titles. Is that what you're telling me? That's
no, I'm saying
because clearly that's the answer.
No, but I'm saying like from a decision making process. Like, is it a new head coach? Is it you know what I mean? Is
Oh,
it
I
best for
got you.
James?
Okay.
Like,
I think what's going to be best for him is ultimately someplace else, because I think he's hit the ceiling here. The fan base, when you get to the point of like apathy, and I think that's where we're at, it's
it's a
like,
dangerous place to be.
yeah, like it's not where you want to be at. And like I said earlier, like, again, no one wants to hear this, but he's done a lot to drag this program forward. And there was some kicking and screaming along the way, and all the facilities and all of this. Like, that's part of what's gotten Penn State to this point. That's part of why they're at least always in the hunt. They've been competitive, right? You get all the New Year's Six games, but at some point, you want more as a fan base, for sure. The players want more. No one wants more than James Franklin, but I just don't see how that happens now. What is Penn State's ceiling as a program? That's the other piece of this, right? Like, I think it's very obvious to say this isn't Georgia, this isn't Alabama. What is that realistic expectation for a place that hasn't won a national championship since '86, right? Like, I get that. I get the frustration of, you are a powerhouse. You have a lot of resources, right? You've gone all in because that's what the new athletic director was supposed to be doing here. Is, hey, James, what do you want? We're going to get it done. Now that you have everyone pulling the rope in the same direction, to steal a Franklinism from his intro presser, the results aren't there. So I think for Penn State, it's better to start anew. I think for James Franklin, another opportunity is as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's essentially the point I wanted to get at, right? Like, and that's why I asked him this week too. Imagine we both got two questions about like, has this start essentially shaken his confidence and what he can achieve at Penn State? And he said, he's confident in Penn State. He's confident in himself. He's confident in the men and women in the Lash building. But I think it would be fair if right now he didn't believe he could get where he wanted to go at Penn State, or if Penn State didn't believe it could get where it wanted to go with him. And that to me is the main thing here, right? Like, if both sides are not certain that the other is right for them, then I think it makes a whole lot of sense for everybody to just kind of move on, right? And
this mutual parting of ways, I think, is like,
yes.
I think there's a messy way this can go down, and that's, we either
know.
side digging their heels in and saying, hey, this is it, or
Yep.
You talked about the power struggle. There's that, and then I think there could be a world where, and this is obviously, I think, best case scenario, where they agree to say, hey, this isn't working. Thank you for everything you've done. We appreciate what you've done. Hey, Florida's open. Maybe Wisconsin's open. Maybe Auburn, Kentucky. Right?
Auburn,
like,
I think would make quite a bit of sense.
Yeah, like, I think there's other jobs where I think James Franklin can do really good things, but it just feels like it's run the course here.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I think that this is. I feel more confident that that's what should happen than I did on Saturday, but I feel less confident that that is what will happen. I do think in the next couple of weeks we're going to learn a lot. Iowa, we're going to learn a lot. Like, I think in the bye week is a good time. Like, you have a lot of conversation with people then. I think honestly by the end of Indiana, I think a lot of, like, you and I will have a good idea of what we expect to happen, right? I think that is kind of when these ideas, these thoughts, like, will more solidify, and that Penn State will kind of be forced to pick a direction. James will kind of be forced to pick more of a direction. I would not expect anything to happen with James midseason. Like, I would be surprised if it happened that way. Same as, like I said, with the coordinators. But yeah, I think that is the logical conclusion that this is headed. Important housekeeping note: I saw Eric in the chat asked for an update on the preseason games and karaoke. We will get to those during the bye week. I'm going to guess.
Does anyone win?
I'm guessing Audrey doesn't feel so good about those right now.
I don't even remember what I picked other than Drew Aller going to New York and winning the Heisman. Or that ain't happening.
Yikes! But yeah, I think I feel pretty good about some of those. We'll get all that stuff during the bye week when things slow down a little bit here. We can talk about Northwestern now if you want. I don't like this is. I think
the biggest
about
Preston Stone.
Yeah, Preston Stone, who essentially, like, told me at Big Ten Media Days that, like, they got wrecked by Penn State when he was here with SMU last year, which I thought was very funny. I can't remember the exact phrasing he used, but he was, like, blown away by the atmosphere. But yeah, I think
might be a little different on Saturday.
Yeah, it's gonna be. Well, that's what I think. That is the thing that everyone is kind of looking at now, right? Like it's not even the
It's a
product on the
spectacle.
field Saturday. It's the spectacle of like
It's the emotion.
the fans losing their mind, like how James handles it, how the players handle it, all the emotion charged in the stadium. And then like presumably, and I probably shouldn't say this considering what happened at UCLA, if they win, like is anyone even happy? You know what I mean? Like, or is this just like
Everyone's mad
like,
all the time.
Honestly,
welcome to Penn State 2025. Yeah,
I think if they beat Northwestern, everyone's going to get booed when they come off the field. Like I think that is what's going to happen. And if they lose, oh boy, I think things could get really ugly. And this is a quick reminder that to fans that James, his staff, and his players are people too. Like let's keep that in mind. There's no need to.
Yeah, I think the thing that struck me. Give a shout out to our colleague Mark Brennan at 247. I watched Brennan Camp Saturday or Sunday morning. I watched it, and James is walking off at UCLA, and he's with his daughter, and it's just an ugly scene. I mean, Penn State fans over the railing yelling at him. Nobody wants to go through that. I understand the frustrations. Like nobody deserves that. It's just sad. Like to me, it is a sad situation that this is where it is. But I understand the frustration, and I get it as a sports fan. Of I think we've had this conversation before. I am not a booing kind of fan. That's just not me. Like I love my teams. I love them passionately. But I don't fan that way. But I'm for the Phillies. Yeah. But like I'm not here to tell you how to fan or to tell somebody else how to be a fan. Like that's your thing. So if you want to boo, go ahead. I don't do it, but I understand it. And I think that's going to be Saturday, and that spectacle, that scene, that emotion, it's all warranted. And James Franklin, obviously he knows it's coming. The players know it's coming. I mean, I was asking guys on Zoom this week, like, what do you think Saturday's going to be like in the stadium? And they're like, we just have to tune it out. And we need to go win. And that's similar to what I asked James Franklin with my second question. He said, yeah, we just need to find a way to beat Northwestern. Now, as you said, John, is that win really going to quiet anything? Because then we now know that they have to go to Kinnick Stadium the following week for a night game on Peacock.
Yeah. That is not
That's
fun.
Tough.
Also, just want to clarify something, seeing in the chat that essentially Penn State has the money to buy out James Franklin. That is not the case. That is the athletic department does not have the money to do that, specifically if it's a lump sum or even if it's paid out over the term. Like we don't know if they have the money to do that. They have a massive stadium reconstruction project that they are currently paying for and going to have to pay off. But no, Penn State does not have the money to just foot the bill right now. Frankly, there are a couple of donors that donate to athletics that could make the decision right now. There are not many of them, though. Penn State does not have oil money or anything like that, like Texas Tech or Oklahoma State. Like, Cody Campbell ain't walking through that door. So, like, there are a couple people who could do it. I don't anticipate them doing it.
And to be clear, this is a joke. I'm not saying this is an actual option. But do you want the Marzano club or do you want the head coach gone? Take your choice, right? Yeah, like, did you see they just leave the stadium half done and say like, sorry guys, like you got a new coach. Like
yeah,
we had to make
I'm sure
a
that
choice.
would go over well.
Yeah, well, I mean, some people would.
You want to get to predictions?
Sure.
Yeah, it feels about time. I'll go first here. I saw the spread for this game in the 20s and I was like pretty surprised with how Penn State's played. Now watch them come out and win like I said, like 41-7.
Yeah.
I've got Penn State 24, Northwestern 13, in a game that leads to a lot of booing, a lot of frustration, a lot of bad days for pretty much everyone.
Expletives?
Yes, a lot of expletives. I think this is going to be ugly. I think they're going to win, but I don't think it's going to quell any of the concerns moving forward. And I think people are going to be very frustrated at the end result.
So everyone's going to be happy, is what I took that as.
No, I do not.
I'll come back to your player next.
Yep.
My pick is Penn State 27, Northwestern 13. My confidence level on a scale of 10 to 1, 10 being super confident, 1 being I don't feel good about it at all, is a 4. And I say that because when you look at James Franklin when he's had his back against the wall. I think back to that Minnesota game. They came out in the second half and figured it out. I'm not saying that's going to happen Saturday, but I think we've seen the example of when things get really testy, there's been a response. Again, so I'm going to go 27-13, not super confident. And I'll start off with our player that we're going to be talking about Saturday night after that 3:30 homecoming showdown. And John, I feel really good about saying this. The player we're going to be talking about is Kaytron Allen, because one way or the other, we're going to be talking about his usage, right?
That's true.
I mean, I think that's the thing. And I don't know what it's going to take to unlock the play caller, unlock the position coach, unlock the head coach who could say, hey, why isn't he getting the ball? To get 13 the ball. I don't know how, why, what's going to transpire, but we'll definitely be talking about it one way or the other.
Yeah, I'm going with Devontae Ross. I think he cracks a few big plays and is essentially one of two players to score. I'm giving him 6 catches, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns in the game. I think part of this is I just think he's quickly establishing himself as the best receiver on the team. Didn't really show up Saturday, not that many receivers did. I think there are other issues at play as to why that happened. I think he needs to have touches designed for him more so than maybe the other guys, but I think he's good enough in the open field that you design touches, you find ways to make it work. I think, honestly, what we're going to actually be talking about on Sunday is, like I said, all of the reaction, all of that stuff, everything around the game. Because that's what's going to be
greatness uniforms.
Yeah, all right, no one's going to like this. I don't really care about the collar thing. I don't know. I understand that the nostalgia of it from, you know what I mean? We've seen great players like Dan Connor
win a game.
and everything.
Wear whatever you want and win a game.
But
that's all people want.
They should have worn the pink and black, if you ask me. I'm sure no one will like that take either.
Honestly, yeah, I'm just...
Although this is not the year to do it. Everyone being angry.
Well, I mean, John, that would be one way to get some money and sell some pink and black jerseys.
That is very true. Although you can sell the ones with the white collar now. But yeah, as Audrey said earlier, we will be back post-game Saturday at some point to discuss whatever it is we are about to watch. I'll say this is one of the most fascinating games I think we'll ever cover. I'm not eliminating the chance that this is 2016 Minnesota. I think that's possible. I don't think it's likely. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think it's possible, which would be very interesting.
In terms of turning point?
Yeah, fans are just booing them like crazy. They sneak out a win against a team they're clearly better than and go on a run, right? I think that's possible. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's possible. But until then, you can find all of my writing at SenatorDaily.com. You can find me on Twitter at John Sauber and on Blue Sky if you search John Sauber. You can find Audrey's writing at InsideTheLines.substack.com. You can find her on Twitter at OddSnyder4 and on Blue Sky if you search Audrey Snyder. We will be back post-game. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast if you're listening on audio. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the thumbs up button down below. Hit the subscribe button. Bring your questions post-game Saturday. We're always down to answer as many reasonable questions as we can, especially post-game, because there will be a lot to talk about. We always want to know what is on the fans' minds as they're kind of going through this. But until then, thank you for tuning in. Have a great day.